What's going on with C.J. Stroud? Is huge. I've heard Rams rumors. Are they still all in on C.J.? I think he throws a beautiful ball, but man, he had some bad picks. Man, the turnovers are concerning. What is going on with him?
I think it's a loss of confidence, really. It manifests itself in the footwork, not always being where it needs to be, which threw off some of his accuracy outside the numbers. And this is over the last 2 years. It was not just last year. It just hasn't been the same since his rookie season. I think a couple of things to keep an eye on. They changed quarterback coach. We'll see. Now, so you know who's not in the building now that was in the building in 2023 and is now in Chicago is Case Keenum. And Case Keenum is a phenomenal set of second eyes. And it's not a surprise that the Bears re-up Case Keenum because he's basically like another quarterback in that room. He's like another quarterback coach. And I think CJ really misses having a guy like that in his ear, someone who is a second set of eyes on the field to give him some confidence and really give him a different feel from a quarterback standpoint about what the defense is doing. Nick Caserta's done a great job. They've added offensive linemen. There's no excuses there. They've added David Montgomery to go with Woody Marks.
Yeah, I like that move a lot. I like that move. Yeah.
I do too. I'm a big David Montgomery fan. Tank Dell is back. Jaden Higgins in year 2. Nico Collins is, a very good wide receiver. There's really no excuses. Their offense coordinators in year 2, and CJ, this is year 4. If you don't play well, it's an official regression for CJ Stroud. This is a monster year for him. He will get his 5th-year option. That's going to happen. But the extension can't happen, Colin, until you see the same quarterback or a better version that you saw when he was a rookie.
Okay. Get to talk Houston Texans now, baby. I've been waiting for this. I'm going to go on a nice little rant. Because I got some thoughts. As soon as I saw CJ Stroud and the Texans in the bottom right, I'm like, we're doing this. Let's go. So, I am pumped. Before I get into it though, please Houston Texans fans, do not forget to subscribe and watch the full length of the video. When you guys subscribe, when you watch the video and subscribe at the same time, views go through the roof. Subscribers go through the roof. And I can't emphasize this enough. It's not about just chasing views. It's not about just chasing subscribers. Obviously, I want the views. Obviously, I want the subscribers. But it's about being able to create content that people genuinely want to watch so I can keep creating the best possible Houston Texans content that I can so we can really have real grounded, unbiased conversations. So, please do consider doing that. So, let's now get into it. When we talk about no excuses with the O-line, the O-line has been awful. The O-line has been awful. We can expect a quarterback in year 2 and year 3 who is still on his path to needing to be developed, to be able to magically be consistently great. When your O-line is a mess, when your receiving core is all getting banged up and injured and you rehiring a new coordinator and your run game's inconsistent, guys, we don't see that with any quarterback. Even the quarterbacks that have had a re-emergence, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's a Daniel Jones, Jones, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, no matter who it is, let alone the quarterbacks. Guys, everyone says this about a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson. When their O-line isn't there, what do you want him to do? Blah 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 blah. So, it's just why do we expect a quarterback in year 2 and year 3 to be able to survive these issues that we barely expect all-time special talent? I don't understand. Now, again, I will say this and I'll say this earlier on in this conversation. CJ Stroud absolutely positively needs to be better and I want to see him be more resilient. Resiliency matters tremendously to me. It does. It matters tremendously to me and it's why I elevate a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes so high because their levels of resiliency is through the roof. And as someone who is a believer in CJ Stroud, who believes he can be special, who, was pushing for him to be the MVP, thinking that he was going to be the MVP and, etc., super high on the Texans, obviously has not come to fruition, hasn't been all, tied together quite yet. But the one thing, because I'm open to him struggling. I'm open to him failing considering the circumstances. But I would love to see more resiliency even when you're failing, even when things are obviously all over the place, see the resiliency. And I see that again with the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes of the world. And I'd love to be able to see that with CJ Stroud. And I haven't been able to. And that is frustrating, and that is something that's just like, where do you know, does that put a cap on who you are? I just think it's been a tough journey. Sounds like it's the journey, but it's just been a tough timeline of events for CJ Stroud in terms of how the construction of this team, injuries, etc. I just think it's been death by 1,000 paper cuts for CJ in terms of our perception of him. That's what I think it really comes down to. And I'll be honest, in this moment of time, I still go back and forth. I still to toss and turn with this, what I can expect out of a quarterback when you're changing coordinators, when your O-line's a mess and receivers are in. I have different expectations based on where you're at in your career. I expect, again, I'll just keep using Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen as the reference point. I expect them to be better in less than ideal situations. Now, I don't expect him to just be able to now go win a Super Bowl, but I expect again resiliency, competency, I expected. Right? Because I'm just if you're as great as I think you are, sure. Would you be better with a better O-line? Would you be better with better receiver? Yes. Absolutely. But I still expect a certain quality of play out of you. Because if I don't, then there's no difference between you and Baker Mayfield or Dak or Jalen or, whoever. Because and then at that point, it's well, then what actually separates you? What makes you special? Is it that you can just elevate even higher when everything is good? And maybe that is a case, right? That could absolutely be a football reality that truly I think you can establish. There's different ways of being great. You can be a player where you can elevate a team. You can win a heck of a lot of games without having a great roster. But that same quarterback, if you have an elite roster, maybe you don't do enough to actually put you over the edge, or maybe you're not mistake-free enough to actually be able to truly put you over the edge. And then there's other quarterbacks that when you have an elite roster, when you are stacked, when you have the great coach, you are great at max. You're not good at elevating everything. So, if you don't have a great O-line or, not the best receivers, there's not much that we're going to be able to really do with you, and you're not really going to be able to show your greatness. But when everything else is in order, you know how to play mistake-free football. You know how to get the job done. You know how to execute at the highest level. You know how to maximize what's around you. Again, those are different skill sets. There's different ways to get to the goal here. And these are things I talk about a lot. We haven't really been able to fully see the big picture with CJ Stroud quite yet. And so we have seen, okay, maybe he's not the best at elevating. That's fine. That's fine. And this is something that I say all the time. At the end of the day, I need to know, can you win when your roster is great? We, for whatever reason, slowly start to emphasize doing more with less. I think probably because we realized all collectively that when you pay a quarterback a lot of money, it's harder to pay for other people. And it kind of came out that when a quarterback is this % of the salary, you got to let go of these players and blah 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 blah. And we kind of start to invented this whole kind of mindset that, if you're truly a great quarterback, then you're going to have to prove that you can win in less than ideal circumstances. And again, when you're having GOAT conversations, when you're really trying to figure out who's the best quarterback of all time, who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now, all of that stuff is fair game. When you're trying to figure out, can I be a great team? Can we win a Super Bowl? That conversation matters a lot less to me. It's, can this quarterback be great with a great team? That's all I care about. Because you're not going to win a Super Bowl without a great team. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without a great O-line. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without no run game. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with a bad defense. You're not going to win a Super Bowl under those. Name it. Tell me when it happens. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen. You can invent and cook the books all you want. It doesn't happen. Even if you want to put out, well, this defense actually really wasn't that good. Well, how did they play in that divisional round? How did they play in that wild card round? What was it great? Was it all, what did they show up when they needed to? Yes or no? Right? So, that's when you have to kind of really be careful how you're threading this needle. So, in terms of this evaluation of CJ Stroud, could we say, yeah, you know what? He hasn't been the most resilient quarterback. I think that's 100% fair. And would I like to see better play out of him? Absolutely. Absolutely. But when he has the receivers intact, when he has a run game, when he has an O-line, and obviously we know they've had one of just the most mind-numbingly amazingly defenses you could ever imagine. Who is CJ Stroud? And that's why I said, and some people took this the wrong way when I was talking about, but I said, I want to see CJ Stroud just elevate his floor rather than his ceiling. It's like to me, he elevates his floor, which in a lot of ways is probably more the foundation to resiliency rather than elevating in those moments. It's actually just. It's just actually just taking care of the floor rather than elevating the ceiling. So, I guess elevating the floor rather than elevating the ceiling is probably the foundation of resiliency. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. Getting too philosophical right now, but it's just like to me that's what I care about. That's what I care about with CJ Stroud. And then that's why I said being a better game manager. And people get this twisted, you don't want to do that. If you're really special, then you'll prove it. This that and it's just like guys, I try to emphasize this as much as I can. If you're an elite game manager, you are going to be you are consistently a top quarterback in the NFL year after year after year. You can't be truly special without also being an elite game manager. It's just not possible. It's really not. It's just not. There's so many other quarterbacks that we've seen them do such magic. Kyler Murray, I've seen Kyler Murray make some plays where I'm just like, this guy is unbelievable. This is the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. He's not a great game manager. Therefore, who the heck is Kyler Murray in any given moment? I have no idea. That's a problem. That becomes a genuine problem. Who is this quarterback in this moment? I have no idea. That's uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable spot to be in. So, it's just like that's what I want to be able to see CJ Stroud take care of. And I remember a couple years ago when we first started to recognize, things aren't looking as they did rookie season. And then, he's pointing out, Lance is pointing out, his footwork and his confidence, and it's like 'cause he's got no confidence. He hasn't had confidence in the O-line in the last couple of years. And again, credit to, I think it was Orlovsky and Ryan Clark of all people putting that out in 23. No, 24, I guess, right? Yeah, 24 where they were just like he has no confidence right now in the P. And it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And so again, when you're talking about a young developing quarterback, it's like, yeah, it's hard for you to find your footing in that situation. And you do kind of need to be reworked. You do need to kind of get resituated. You do need to rebuild your confidence. You did pick up some bad habits that you need to kind of correct. Not kind of, you need to just correct. And so that's why I said it's more about death by 1,000 paper cuts, because all of the things that we're seeing out of CJ Stroud and how this has unfolded, it makes perfect sense. Like the explanation for it makes sense. And I understand how you can get to where you're at right now. And I do think CJ deserves that benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy. In 2023, the Houston Texans' pass block win rate was 53%. 27th in the NFL. In 2024, 58%, 22nd in the NFL. And then 2025, 56%, 30th in the NFL. The reality is because there's some nice names like Nico and whatnot, and the defense has been obviously elite. The way how this O-line has been, the way how this offense has been a little bit of, especially with when you factor in injuries and whatnot, when we now look back in time and say, you know what, we need to give the benefit of the doubt to a Sam Darnold, Baker, all those other quarterbacks. Look who it was, the Panthers. It was the Jets. Like there's flavors of that with the Houston Texans. If any quarterback deserves some of that benefit of the doubt right now, it actually really is. If this defense wasn't elite, and if Demo wasn't such a great head coach, and obviously defensive head, defensive coach as well, this team would be bad and people would just say, oh, this team's not good. They can't win. TJ's not good. Blah 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 blah. And it would be like, well, no. This is just a version again. This is a version of the old Panthers and the old Jets. Well, I guess still the current Jets, but the Jets, the Browns, etc. It's just the fact that this defense is elite and it is special, and so it can keep games under control. CJ Stroud is good enough, and when you do have Nico, Tank, etc. Like, okay, you can do some damage, but the problem is that the O-line has been quite frankly a mess from the jump. The run game up and down, up and down. Up and down. And the receivers again, injuries, etc. in out of the lineup, in out of the lineup, in out of the lineup. And combined with a quarterback who's in the beginning of his career, it's a messy situation. It's a messy situation that is being not magnified because of the defense and Demo, and I guess because of CJ's base level talent. So even in the playoffs, he's able to pull off some wins. He did elevate even against the, oh my gosh, what's the team? The Chargers, because I don't, I think the first game was probably pretty straightforward. His first playoff win against, I think it was against the Cleveland Browns, right? Against Joe Flacco. That was a pretty straightforward win if memory serves me correctly. And then again, I can't really put the win all on him last season in the playoffs against the Steelers, right? Steelers. My mind is already now like, wait, who won the Super Bowl last year? Who was it? And so yeah, I think some of that kind of allows you to kind of play a little bit of mental gymnastics here. But yeah, I think out of all the quarterbacks that deserve some grace right now, it actually genuinely should be CJ Stroud. But I'll emphasize one last time and end here. It doesn't mean that he is just a victim and there's no he's all good BL, like he does still need to be better. There were moments for him to be a better quarterback despite the O-line, despite this. Even in the playoffs against the Patriots, it was a messy game, and he also now had his number one target go down as well. And it's just like that's tough, right? Like I get that, all of that. I think he got concussed, I think it was. Like that's all hard, but he still made bad decisions. He still made bad throws. He was bad at managing that game. And if he was just better at managing that game despite the limitations that he had thrust upon him, it would have at least looked better. It at least would have been better, and I would have felt better at least at the loss. I wouldn't have been like, oh, you should have won. What the heck, CJ, if you were better, you would have won. But I would have just felt better about the loss. And so that's why this conversation is kind of intertwined. You can have it from both directions. You can offer grace to CJ Stroud and say he's a little bit of a victim of a circumstance. But also in that circumstance, he needs to be better. Not saying he has to overcome it. I'm not saying that he has to, rise above it and prove his worth and his greatness in those moments, but I just expect a better and higher floor out of someone like a CJ Stroud. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans? The question's silly. How much pressure is on him this season? Obviously, very much so, right? Very high. But let me know your thug. Heights. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.